Hi. No, Mr. Tusk. No. I am not responsible for the wrongdoing which happened within the course of my employment. You might wonder what I was talking about. I was talking about today's topic, which is liability for damage caused by employees and representatives. Good afternoon. My name is Armin Anglishan, and today's agenda is the following topic: law of non-contractual liability, or in common law terms, the law of torts. The Commission intends to propose to have a common European civil code in which liability for damage caused by employees and representatives would be harmonized over all member states, and this is a topic we will be discussing for the upcoming weeks. Now, presently, the differences between member states regarding liability rules pose a challenge to our current functioning of the internal market. Thereby, harmonizing would be the most feasible option. We need harmonization. This harmonization needs to be dealt with at an EU level. To achieve this, the Commission requires a common liability frame. In that way, excluding difficult rules of each member state. I now would like to pass the floor to my colleague, Veronika Ivanic, who will further outline our proposal of liability for damage caused by employees and representatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner, for the introduction to the new plan for the development of the European Union liability rules in torts. Good afternoon. My name is Veronika Ivanic, and I want to tell you that the European Union cares about your rights as an employee when you work across Europe. Because of the internal market, freedom of movement rights, more and more European citizens travel across Europe in order to find a better work position. In fact, the employment contracts are concluded every day across Europe. However, it is clear that different kinds of accidents during the course of employment may happen. But how the employees may know what their rights are, how can they know who's responsible for different kinds of accidents that can occur in the course of employment, or whether the compensation will be available as well? The European Union countries have different rules for making employer liable for the damage caused by employees and making compensation for the damage occurred during the course of employment accessible, but they vary greatly. This makes it difficult for the employees who work abroad to make it accessible. Therefore, our proposal aims to change this. So the employees from all over the European Union can have better access to the protection and serenity in everyday life in the member states. This includes responsibility of the employers, compensation for the damage that occurred in the course of employment, and the legal rights of the employees. So what we can achieve by this? Firstly, it will be easier for the employees to apply for the work across the EU if they know what their rights are. Secondly, there will be less risk, more serenity and safety in the employment contracts. Therefore, as a consequence, employees will benefit from greater protection of their rights. So, the Europeans will apply for work across the member states with confidence, courage and serenity.
My name is Sabrina Brooker, and I will talk about Germany and France's position regarding employer liability. In Germany, the general rule is found in paragraph 831 of the BGB. Anyone who has employed another person for a task is liable for the injury unlawfully caused by that person in the performance of his task, unless it is proven that he was not negligent in the selecting, instructing, and supervising of the employee. As we can see, this is a form of strict liability, as the employer is liable for the employee's actions regardless whether or not he acted intentionally or negligently. When assessing whether or not an employer is liable in German law, the employee firstly must have violated a codified normative rule. This requires even an infringement of a right, a violation of a statutory rule, or an intentional unethical conduct. Secondly, the employee's conduct must be considered as unlawful. Thirdly, there must be intention or negligence of the employer. This is presumed unless there is a defense which is applied. Fourthly, the injury must have been done in the course of the employment, therefore the causation is the immediate relationship between the activity he has been instructed to perform and the act causing the damage. And finally, there must be damage in the first place. This provision has been strongly criticized for being too employer-friendly, as it creates an issue of decentralization, exoneration, as a larger companies can only prove that he acted with due care in choosing the manager responsible for selecting personnel.
Good afternoon to all. My name is Lara Sarwe and I will continue with the UK's position regarding the employer's liability. This is contained within the Employers' Liability Act of 1880 and 1969 and the Workmen's Compensation Act. Employer's liability in England is based on vicarious liability. This means that the employer is strictly liable for the damage caused to third parties by his employees. In order for employer's liability to be established, 3 requirements must be fulfilled. Firstly, the author of the damage must be an employee. Secondly, such employee must have committed a tort. Finally, this must have occurred within the course of employment. In the majority of cases, both the employer and employee are jointly liable for the damage caused by the employee. Interestingly, employer's liability is strict from the employer's point of view. On the other hand, it is fault liability from the victim's point of view. On a concluding note, the liability rules only apply to relationships of subordination and not to relationships with independent contractors. Regardless, employer's liability may also apply outside of a labor situation. An example may be a gratuitous task. This has been an overview of the UK's stance on employer's liability. The Commission sincerely hopes this has cleared up any questions, concerns on the matters of UK's position in general.